Okay,
And
we're live.
all right, now we're recording. Go for it.
All right. So, hello everyone. This is Ife Jeremiah. I'm a software developer from Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm here to give a presentation on a tax tracker application. So, let me just talk a bit about myself. I'm a software developer from Nigeria, like I said, and I've been developing um, for quite a while, actually 2 years now. Um, so what I've been doing is a software developer building for the web. So building web servers and the front end using React, Angular, using building for the back end using Node.js, Express, and MongoDB, MySQL for database, and also using Python for building, for some automation projects that I've worked on and web crawling and all of those kind of stuff. So basically, I code and yeah, that's all about me. So um, today we're going to be building a task tracker application using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And basically, let me just share my screen real quick.
Wait, Ife, before you go on, I know there's going to be a part two to this. Do you want to tell us what part two is going to be?
Okay, yeah. So today we're going to be building a task application. We're using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then the next part will be adding a server. So you can actually create a task and upload that task to a server. So it's going to be persisted in your database. And this application is just to show you how to, be useful, like to increase your to increase your I don't know what to say, but to the way you use HTML and CSS and JavaScript to be able to sharpen your skills. So that's the purpose of this project. And basically, this tax application, you create a task and you have a list of tasks, and you can be able to assign a task. So you create a task with a title and a time which you want to execute that task, and you can also edit the task and you can delete the task. But right here, we're going to implement editing because of the time constraints. We're just going to show how we can be able to delete it, and we're going to store everything into memory. So for the next part, we're going to, have a server using Node.js, and we're going to have a database, perhaps perhaps a dummy database, like a JSON database, where we just create everything into that database, a JSON file, or we could even have a MongoDB uh, database. So let me just quickly share my screen so I can explain and give a demo about what we're going to be building. Okay, so just a minute. So I'll be sharing now. Oh boy. All right. Hello, Adam. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So this is what we're going to be building. We're going to be building this tax tracker. Um, so right now is hosted on GitHub pages, and let me give a quick demo. So this is the list of a task, and you have this button to create a new task. So you fill in. So for instance, do dishes, or do the laundry or whatever, and you just assign the time you want to do that task. So you could say, okay, you want today the 18th of November, and you want to do that task 10 p.m. Or you could say, okay, tomorrow is Saturday, I want to do the dishes. So you could set the time to let's say 10 a.m. So yeah, and then you can save. Sorry, just hold on a minute. Let me refresh this page. And click on issues. All right. No, going on with this. Oh no, remove. Um, and I'm getting some error. This has some error, but I think as we're going to build it, the idea behind this is we'll just have this. Once we save, it's going to go down here as a new task that you're going to add. So, and then you could delete it, and then you could save a new one. Okay, I just deleted it. So once I delete this, once I close, I could close that form. So this is a form field, so I can close it. And once I close it and I've deleted that format task, so I can create a new one. Let's say do laundry. Let's say 11:14. Right. So today by 11:14 p.m. I want to do the laundry. I could save that. So it comes here Friday, November 18, 2022. So basically that's just it, and it has an about. So you can go back to the page. So this about is just talking about, okay, welcome to about page, and you have copyright, and you can go back. So this do laundry is just there by default, and you could delete it. And once there are no tasks in there, this no tasks available would just display. So basically, it's a very simple application, but we're going to just focus on DOM manipulation and some CSS, no, DOM manipulation and some JavaScript. So let's get going. All right. So um, I've created a new directory where I'm going to create the entire application at. So in this task tracker app, I'm going to create everything in it. So I'm using VS Code, VS Code, the text editor, and I want to open up VS Code in this directory. So as I'm going to open it, I would always like to use this pattern to open it, opening CMD in this directory, and then using this command code dot. So this means you want to code in this particular directory. So this will open up VS Code, and as you can see, it's empty, and I'm going to start creating my files. So let's just start creating files. Creates index.html. So this is where everything is going to be. Uh, this will be the entire uh, tax tracker application. It's just going to be in index.html. And then, so there's a shortcut for a boilerplate for, so rather than starting your HTML or, doc type and all of that, HTML. So there's a boilerplate for creating a new when you're trying to create a new HTML file. So it's just exclamation, and so you see all of this right here. So all of this will be created for you, right? So you enter. That's it. And so you could give it a title, tracker, and yeah. So I would also like to create a CSS file, actually a folder, because I like to organize things quite a bit. So I create CSS folder and also a JS folder. And in the CSS, I'll create the style.css, and also in the index on the JS file, I like to create a script that's JS file, right? And so I would like to link everything up into the index.html file. So here I would say link, and I'm trying to bring in the CSS, this CSS. So it's in here. So just to quick go through this. This means in here, so this dot right here before the slash and then the CSS just means where this index.html file is. So this index.html file is in Tax Tracker app. So you look into this Tax Tracker app and look for a CSS folder in it. So this is the CSS folder right here. And in the CSS folder, there's a style.css basically. So on that, so before the body, the closing body tag, I would like to include the script. So in VS Code, there are always suggestions. You have a lot of suggestions. That's to just make your development easier. So right now you have scripts that's SRC. So I'll click on that and I'll also select my script.js. Nice. Okay. So now we're going. And so mainly I will try to have a div. So as I'm coding everything along, I'm explaining how I think and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So right now I want to create a main div as a main container to house everything in here. So this entire container is what I want to build right now. So let's go in. So I will call it a main container, and I will just add my styles. So guys, all of this code has been hosted on GitHub. So I would just, the link will be in the description. It will be on this call. It will be on this presentation. So I'll just copy the CSS. I wouldn't want to, because of our time constraint, I wouldn't want to start to type all the CSS because, it's CSS. But I wrote this. Basically, what this does is, okay, I'm declaring variables. So the primary color and secondary color lightweight, and then I'm initializing everything. So because each browser has a default style, so I'm just correcting that, and I'm saying the body should have a font family of this. I don't know, I just like this font family, this font style, and I'm declaring, the line height. The line height from each word, declaring that to be 1.5, yeah. And we're going to have a container, and we're going to have flex. So in here, these are utilities. So we're going to have display flex, display flex between. So this and this will work together. So you need display flex and align item center, justify content center. You're going to have a primary button. When you hover over the button, what should happen? Highlight, and so many things in here. So I'm using live server to, to have a preview of what I'm developing. So live server basically is just an extension, VS Code extension that would in real time give you what you're developing. So give you the output of what you're developing. So I would start that. If you don't have it installed, you could just install it in your extensions. You could look for it in your extensions right here. So I have it installed, so I will just go live here. So as you can see, it's starting. It started at on port 5500. So it started here as a blank. Started here as a blank page. So there's nothing, but we have our title right here. Our title, tax tracker title from here. So every change, so let's assume I give it tax tracker app. So and I save. So you would have to save for it to reflect over there. So it's going to change immediately. I don't need to refresh my page as I save on my VS Code files. So just a minute right here. So we're going to go straight into building the cards. So let's take a look at what we're building again. So all of this right here is a card. I gave this box a card, and this component, we have this button component, the header button component, and then we're going to have tags components, each tags component, and then we're going to have a form component, and we're going to have another page, about page. So let's quickly just implement that. So we have main container, like I said earlier. I just like to make everything in order. So we're going to have a concord, and in that concord, we're going to have a class called container. So basically, we have this concord here with this style. So this is concord. We have the container in here. So we are trying to say that this div has a width of 500 pixel at most, and then it's going to have a max width of 500 pixel, and it's going to have a width also of 100 pixel minus 40. So basically, this CSS styling makes your it makes your page more responsive. Okay, in this sense, looking at max width right now, we are saying this div should have a max width of 500. So on larger screens, on screens that are bigger than 500, it's going to be just 500. But on smaller screens, let's say phones, smaller screens, it's going to be 100 minus 40 pixels. So let's assume your phone screen is, let's say, 499. It's going to take out 40 pixels out of 499 pixels. So it's going to have some kind of margin between, which we've defined here, a margin of 0 and auto. So we're going to see all that in here. So we're going to have a card, which is this, which is the card we're going to be building here. So all of this, I gave it a name as of card, and it's going to have a header. So we're going to be define our header. And our header is going to have flex and flex space between. So I defined these classes because in this header right here, this is our header right here. So it's going to have a flex, and it's going to, which is this, the flex, you're going to display flex. So the align items are going to be in center. So they're going to be in an horizontal line. And we want each element in this div to distant from themselves. Like we want them to be separate. So we're going to give in this value of a justified content space between. So this is a value of this of flexbox. So flexbox has align items, justify content, flex column, and all of that. So going on, we're going to have an H1, which is that tax tracker of title. We're going to give it a class of title, and we're going to give it task tracker. We're going to have the button, and our button, sorry, I want to give it a class. I'm pretty lazy to put in the class names and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to give it a class name of primary btn, primary.btn, and we're going to call it add. So primary button has been defined here already, as you can see. So these are all the styles for this class. So yeah, I would want to implement the add just for the JavaScript. So this is the, let's look at it right here. Look at everything we've done so far right here. So boom, this is what we have. So like I said again, this code will be on the GitHub. So the CSS, you wouldn't have to go through to type it all, but if you would want to just type it all, that'd be nice. So we have this header. So I think I spelled something wrong. This is flex space between. Okay, this is supposed to be between BTW. All right, so that will make everything slanted. That will give space between both elements. So this is an element, this H1 right here, H1, which is the title class. It has the tax tracker as its title, and we also have a button. So it's going to, you know, separate them. So going forward, we have the contents. So in my code, I usually like to, have comments. So these are comments in HTML. So I usually like to give comments so that as I'm going through the code, it's not just too gibberish. I can, read through the code to see, this was my header, this was the content and everything like that. So in my content, we're going to have dot content, which was defined here. And in the content div, so another thing, someone might ask, okay, I'm using so much divs, why am I using so much divs? I don't see divs as, containers in, I might be wrong, I'm not so good in semantic tags. So basically I use divs for most of my, HTML elements, to just group. And so we need a form, the form we're going to fill for the laundry, for the task, for each task, to create a task. So we're going to call that form create task form. So create task, and we're going to have a form with an ID. So if you want an ID, this is the shortcut, rather than you type in form and you have an ID, you could just, have this form and you could have add task. So just in a minute, we're going to know, why I'm giving this ID. And also this button, we need to give it an ID. So in my button, we're going to give it an ID of header button. So back to this form, we're creating a form for data entry to create a task. And in our form, we're going to have the first form control. So form control class, And in the form control class, we're going to have our input tag of type text. So we need, you know, it to be text. So this input tag would have a type of, number. So you could give it number, you could give it date, or whatever you want to give. Right here, we just need text to give in the title of the task, and then we need to give it a placeholder of dates. Sorry, task. We need to give it a name of task. So while I save this, this is what it's going to give us. Oh, okay. Um, my task, my create task needs to be given active. So by default, this entire um, element is given display none just for the JavaScript. So it's display none, and once the JavaScript comes in, it's going on click on this button, the header button right here. It's going to it's going to add in this style to place in display block. So right now I'm just going to give it this style, hard coded, so that we can view it, right? So this is it. This is our form. So we could, and it has a place of our holder of task. So we could add go shopping, right? So we could give it anything as a task. So moving on, we have another form control, right? And our form control has an input tag of date time, date time local. So I'll be explaining this in a bit. And we also have a placeholder of date and time. So let me just shift this a bit. Um, so just to check in, can anyone hear me?
Yep, I
Yeah,
can
I
hear you.
can perfectly.
Oh, thank you. All right. So this datetime local, you know, it's just show you it's an input tag, of type datetime local. So you need the date and you also need the time. So you need the dates and the time. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Like I'm using an office, so someone wants to come in. I was telling the person I'm busy. So so the datetime local is you want to use the local time on your machine. So right now my time is 8:35. So by default, it's going to take 8:35 and also today's date by default. So let's just check that. So this is what it gives us. This input tag with datetime local type. So it gives us this, yeah, and you could click on this calendar icon and it's going to select the time we are. You see this, the exact time we are 8:35, which is 8:35 my time right now, and it's PM, and this is today's date. So you could say, okay, I want it right now, or you could schedule the time. Okay, I want this task. So I want to be reminded of this task. Let's say 12, you know, 12:30 a.m. by tomorrow. So this is tomorrow, which is here 19, and then this is the month, and also this is the year, and also this is the date. So basically just as it. So moving on, we will need to add a submit button. And so our submit button also is a form control, some form control, and we want to flex it, to the other side. Okay, let me just implement that quickly. Flex and flex, flex BT and it flex. Okay, sorry, flex space between. So um this was defined here. I want to go over it again. So this flex right here is a utility. So once I start to reuse it, I give it that kind of utility. So I define it. I define the class at the very top. As you can see, this is line 33. So I define it, at the very top, and I give it a comment in the comment section. I just try to group them, and I give it utilities. So flex, you see, flex was used there, flex was used somewhere else. So that should be a utility. Um, so these are the values, and this one especially is just justify content space between, because flex, which is here, has justify content center, but we don't want it to be in the center. I want it to be, between. So if you have two elements in a div, you have to give, and you want them to be, you want the two elements in a div to be apart, you give it space between, flex space between. So we're going to start to define. So right now, the reason I'm using this, let me just show you real quick. Button. Let me define our button and also give it a primary button and save. So I'm going to show you the reason why I'm giving this elements flex. So, and once again, my CSS wasn't written, so you could just go grab that in GitHub, on GitHub, in the link. The link will be below. So I don't want this save button to be here on my left. I want it to be on my right? And I don't want to float. I mean, float is kind of old, but it's still used. But Flex can do this. So I want my save button to be on my right. I don't want it to be on my left. So the way I'm going to do that is just with a trick. I used flex and flex space between, right, which means justify content space between. I gave the main container that, but it's still like this. So, like I said earlier, if you have a container and that container has several items and you want them to be spaced out, you could use justify content space between, which is in flex box. So with the display of flex, these align items, meaning you want, because by default, you define a div and another div in a parent container, in a parent div container or anything. They're going to be horizontal, they're going to be vertical. So you have everything. Let's say you have first name or last name in a div. So it's going to be, vertical. So assuming, so why we are using display flex is just because of so many things. So right here, as I'm using display flex, I'm using align items center. So I want them to be horizontal. So I want to align everything horizontally. And this justify content means the verticality of, the layout. So align items is for horizontal, justify content is for vertical. All right. Yeah. So I'm saying I want a space to be, I want the space to be distant from each other. I want each element in a particular parent element to be spaced out. So this trick would be very simple. I'll just give a div. I could give a div or whatever. Yeah, I could give I. So Flex will look at this and to say, okay, this is the first container. This is the first element in me, right? This is the parent of these two guys, and this guy I, and this guy button. So these parents will say, okay, I have flex, so I'm going to give it space between. I want to make my children to space out. So using this trick, you could make this come. You could make this happen. So that I will be here, and the save button will be here. So if you inspect this, you could inspect this. You would see that, I don't know if you can see. Let me make this a little bigger. So I just want to just show you about this. You could have some course on Flexbox, but this is the first child and this is the second child. So it's spacing them out. So that would do the trick very easy to make save button go to the next. So let's keep going. So we need to add a task. I want to give a dummy task. So if we create our new if you just come to the page for the first time, we need to know that okay, this page has a task in it. So we're just going to create that task real quick. Um, I'm going through my code right here, so I won't have to rewrite everything. So it's under this container. And also again, I just used to, if you notice, you see a lot of divs, a lot of divs, a lot of divs. As you can see, I just in my mind, um, I just like to use divs as a container. So I'd like to see it as a container. So I could just try to imagine layouts and just use divs as a container. But this is not, the only way to do things. You could use tags, sections, footer, and all of those kind of things. So you could just check out on semantic tags, HTML semantic tags. All right. So let's create a task. So if you noticed, I did this con task. So this will create HTML with contacts, but I just need um, I need a div with a um, class name of contacts, not contacts as in as an element. So I'm going to have the task in it, another task, and we're going to start to define things. So, like I said earlier, I just used to, make things in order. So I'm going to have two divs right here. So the first div is going to have the top and bottom. Let me just go into what I was showing earlier. So if I refresh this page, you will see that by default, we have this first, for this task, we have a child in it. We're trying to just, try to imagine how you're going to build it. So the way I did it was we have this first child and we have the second child, right? So how we're going to implement that is we're going to have an h2 of title, class title, and I'm going to give it a hard-coded task title. Let's say wash plates. Okay, let me just do laundry, right? I have do laundry. So I want to give it something else. I'm bad with tasks. Do homework. Homework. I could give it anything, but I'll just do that. So I want to do my homework this Friday, after this call. I want to do my homework. Today's November. Mm, November, and what's today's date? Okay, back dates. All right, this is just it. And yeah, we created the first part of the task element. So we're going to have this div, and this div is going to have a class of delete. It's also going to have another class pointer. We could just we're going to check the CSS to see, what all of this is about. So we're going to have also a delete icon. And so I said I'm going to explain why I'm having a div in all of this. So the reason I'm having a div, an ID, which is a unique identifier. Basically, you shouldn't actually, you shouldn't have this ID, which is delete icon right here. You shouldn't have it in another, you shouldn't have it for another HTML element. It's just for this specific um, element. But if I think if you have it and you're trying to use it, is the first match. So for instance, it's um, JavaScript is going through this HTML code and it sees this ID, and you will also have this ID for other HTML tags. It will pick the first one, the first match. All right. So we have uh, an icon from Font Awesome. I'm just going to show you how I do that shortly. Let me just go and check that. So Font Awesome, I use Font Awesome for my um it's Font Awesome for icons. I get icons from Font Awesome. So I just need a trash icon, because right here, let me just save this real quick and show you. So this is what we get. I have a task of do homework at this on this date. So basically, you could attach a time, but I didn't attach a time. So you could have, it's just showing date right here, Friday, November 18, 2022. You could also attach a time here, as you would want it to be, but because of the time constraint, I didn't put that in. So um, on Font Awesome, you can just come into Font Awesome and search for fonts you would like to use. And I would like to use delete. I need a delete button. So let's say I use something like this, right? So let me just include that in here to replace this I tag. So right now it wouldn't show because I've not yet included Font Awesome in my project. So let's do that real quick. I'm going to go to cdngs.com. So CDNGS is a place like a repository for every CDN, content delivery network. So we have so many repositories right there. So for instance, you could have jQuery. So the code of jQuery could be in a CDN, in a content delivery network. So rather than you downloading jQuery or Bootstrap or anything, you could just have it in cloud, where you can just use the specific parts you need rather than including the entire file in your project. So right now I just need Font Awesome. I'm just looking for that Font Awesome. So I typed in font and it gave me Font Awesome. So this is it. So I'm just going to copy the link tag. You could copy this URL, or you could, what's this? You could copy some hash. I'm not going to need this, the one in the middle, the copy link tag. All right. Can anyone hear me? Yeah.
Yep, can still hear you.
Okay. So I'm just going to paste it in here. And so this is Font Awesome, which is of this link. So right now it's going to work. All right. So we have our delete icon. So moving on, we would have a little footer right here. So footer. All right. So let me use a semantic tag footer, right? And this footer is going to have a class of footer. I could just call it as footer from the CSS, but I did it this way. So I'm going to have copyright, copyright and copy. So this is what is this? I think this is a character entity. Okay, thank you, VS Code. So this is a character entity representing this copyright. So when you see copyright, all of those copyright that you see the C in a circle, okay, this is what is going to represent. So you have this ampersand sign, and you have a copy, and then you have a call. Okay, so you have 2020, 2022. right? And then you have a tag which is leading to some. I'm going to create. I would have to create an about.html, right? Right. So let me just create that real quick. About.html. I'll do the same thing I did right there to generate a boilerplate for everything. But, right. So that will go in here. So let me just quickly put something in. So once you click on this, let me save it to show you. Okay, I have nothing in. So let me just define that about page. Then give it a class. Highlight. So highlight in here, which is this, is going to give a text decoration underline, meaning this about page will be underlined. This text will be underlined, and it's going to have a color of primary color. So remember, we have primary color, which is this. Primary color is this is some kind of dark blue something. Yeah. All right, let's check it out. Okay, so here it is. We have about page here. So I click on about page. I go to this about HTML, and this is about page. So let me just go back. Okay. So now it is something. Let me just type in some. No, let me not do that. Let me just type in something really. Go home. That could be a task. I need the task to go home. Okay. So on the 25th of November, I want to go home. Maybe I traveled and something like that. So yeah, I could save. Yeah. And then this reloads. If you notice, this reloaded, it refreshed, it reloaded the page because this is a submit button, as we could see here. So we're going to stop all of that using JavaScript. So this is a button, and we're not going to give it a type of submit, no, because we don't want it to reload. We're going to handle all of this using our JavaScript. All right, now let's go into the JavaScript code. So we're going to be here real quick, and let's start to define uh uh elements. So basically what we're going to be doing in JavaScript is we're going to be doing DOM manipulation. So DOM is the document object model. So um every HTML is rendered as a model in your browser, right? So, and that model is called, the DOM, the document object model. It's in a that is in that model. So you could talk to the DOM, you could manipulate it, you could do some kind of things with it. So right now I'm just going to call everyone I need. I would call this phone container, which is document. So I'm saying document query selector create class dot create class. Okay, create task. Sorry. So create task. So what this will do is it will go into the document, which is this. So according to the DOM, it will go into this document. So let me just give a quick, show of what this is. So this is the DOM in your elements. This exactly from here to here is the DOM. You could select anything in it. So it's to go into it and look for, you know, um, what do we call that? Create task. That is the name of the, okay, here it is, create task. So it will just take it out and everything within it. So from here, it will take this form. So this is the create tags div, right? And so it's going to take out, it's going to include the form tag, it's going to include the form control, all of the form controls. So I'm putting that in a variable. So let's declare all our variables. Con task container. So this is the container where each task will be in, which is this. So we're going to bring that here. We want to talk to it. I just used to, as I'm typing, as I'm doing DOM manipulations, like, you know, tampering with the DOM, adding styles. I used to do as if, what I'm doing is a person. So I'm talking to my HTML from my JavaScript. So don't mind me. It's some kind of stuff. So we're going to have this. We want to call this guy con task. Oh, so to do that, we will just, you know, say con task. So it will to take this and everything within it in this variable, in our JavaScript variable. So we're going to I need a header. So this const, we could change this const to, var or let, but I just like to use const. We could change this to var. I mean, this is old. I mean, ES5. So ES6 brought in consts and also let, right? So my header, I need a header, but this header button. So this is the button. It's no, this is the button actually. This is the header section, right? And this is our button. This is the only button in the header section. So we want to call it. So we're going to use it in here. So let's just call it. Um, so sorry, 1 minute. Header button. Get element by ID. This is the ID. So we could copy that real quick. Paste that in, right? With a semicolon. And we need a form. Recommend that get element by ID form, right? So this form, this is the form right here. We need to give it an ID of form. Sorry, this is the form right here. Oh, okay. It has an ID of our task, right? So we're giving it a variable form. So sorry. This is what is actually in there, the ID. So get element by ID. This is the element and this is the ID, our task. All right. So we need the tax fields and date field of the form. So there are so many ways you could do this. You could have, form data, something like that. But I want to keep this really simple. Field and so form that's query selector. So what I'm doing is this form is this entire element from here all down to here. So in this form element, for all of this, we're going to is going to go into this variable. And so in this variable right now, we are going to have this guy. We're going to have this one too, this div. I want to stop calling it guy. I'm just used to it. So sorry. This div and this div too. So I could say I need, this div from this form section. So that's what I'm trying to do right here. So I'm saying form dot query selector. We're going to query this form section for what I'm looking for. So I'm actually looking for a task. I'm looking for this ID. All right. So we don't have a task ID, but what I'm trying to look for right here is an ID. So let me just give it this ID. So the first input, which is the task title, right, which is in the form of text, I need to give it that's this as task. We're talking to this guy, the input element. We're giving it an ID of task. Okay. So let me just copy and paste that and also call this date field, which is this date field, and let's give it an ID real quick. Date, right? All right. So we're going to change that here to date. I really like putting semicolons. It makes my code look ugly. But it works, but let's just try to put it there. So yeah. So the first function. So basically this is going to be in kind of function. So the function we're going to use is the first function will be to toggle form. So I'm going to write all the functions out and explain them bit by bit. So let me just do that. Header button. Right now I want to define header button. I want to say add event listener. So when I click on the button to run this function, I'm going to define this function here. So this function is going to take form container and we're going to add a class list. To add toggle. Just type all of this, so I would go over it and explain exactly what it's doing. To define this, if it's right. So what I'm saying is header button, which is our header button right here. Add this is the header section and we have this button. So I'm saying once you click on when to make an event, which is click, so click is an event. Once you make a click, we should run this function. This function is going to add active to our form container. Now remember, this form shouldn't be okay. Here it is. This section, form section, shouldn't be opened, shouldn't display when you first load your page. So we made it, if you see from our CSS create task, go to it real quick. So create task is display none, so it should not have any display. But when active has been included into it, then it should display block. So I'm just going to remove this active right here and show you and let our JavaScript run. So yeah. So as you can see, our form is gone. And once I add, it's going to come in. And once I click on this button, it's going to come in because we used a toggle. So it's going to be toggling this active class, which is a class list. It's going to add this to it, and it's going to go out once we click on the button again. So here is just to show you what exactly it's doing. So here we have create task and there is nothing. So you can see it's display none, right? So once I click on this button, I click on it, see, it adds an active which is display block, and then it cancels display none. So this is DOM manipulation. So you're trying to manipulate the DOM, and so because you've added active, it's going to cancel out display block, display none, and it's going to become display block to make this form visible. All right. And so when I click on it again, the active class gets away. All right. So let's go to the next function. Handle button. Right. And we want to execute this handle button once you click on the button to toggle form. And we're going to say if form is active, and do this header button, a class list. So let me write all of this out so I will go through it once I'm done. Header button that's inner text. Let me just copy this real quick. So this is remove. Let's remove it. And inner text add. So what I'm trying to say in this function is from here, once you've added the function, you've added a form into our DOM, this function will execute, and this function is saying if, because of this assignment right here. So once you click on the button, the header button, if form active, right now we've set form to be active, but we haven't given it any value. So we're saying once we click on the button, form should be true if it's not true. So if not true, so we didn't assign any value to this form active variable. So JavaScript would define it as false. So if not false, form active should be true, and if form active is true, it should be false. So I click on this button. If form active is true, then it should be false. And if it's false, it should be true. You should just change it. So now if form active is true, then the header button would have another style, and it should have an inner text of close. Else, it should remove the style that we've put, and it should have another text as add. So let's just look at it, the implementation in these. So once I click on it, this form appears. It's going to become bold, and also this our button takes on close. So I click on it and it's close. It's add before, and now it's close. And also have a style of red color, red background color. Okay, let's continue with the next function. So clear input. We have a function to clear input. So once you type in um, your entries, the tags you want, is going to have a clear input to just clear your to clear your entries. So let's just define that real quick. So task field value field, right? I want to just say this, and also blur. So task field blur. This is a function to remove all of this. I'm trying to say is make a function that I can call that will just, make the tax field value, which is this input tag, to make all the values in the tag go away, and it also going to make the tag blurry, so it's not going to be focused on. So let's just use this. Let's create a handle to handle our form. Um, let's create a task. Let's create a so this is for this function is going to create a new task. So let me just quickly put that down. So um in a task, we're going to define templates. We're going to define templates shortly, and we're going to give template task field value. I'll explain that shortly. New date, date field, that value to date string function right there. All right. Then I'm going to task container dot end. So I'm going to explain this right now. So let me explain this. Right now, we would make an entry of a task, and the task is going to have a title and also the time. So we're trying to create a new node. So each element in HTML for DOM manipulation is called a node, and we're creating a new node, which is a new element, a HTML element called div. So we're creating a new div in this function. We're saying we're going to create a new div, and we are giving that div a new class. And this new class has an inner HTML. So meaning this task new div, which is a div right here, is having a class, and it's going to have template, which I'm going to define right now. So whatever this template is going to return, that is what is going to be in the inner HTML. All right. So I want to find a function that is going to handle the event of form submission. So you're going to submit a form, and that form will create this. So let's just do that quickly. Handle form. So handle form will take in an event. So stop the form from reloading. To stop the form from reloading to the next page, we're going to tell it prevent default right here. So prevent default will prevent default, and if so, I also put a validation right here. So I also want to validate the data that's going to be going into it. So I want to say task field task.value is not defined. So if there is no tax field.value, if the user did not type in anything, but it just went on to submit an empty form, there should be nothing. Just saying if it's an empty form that is trying to be submitted, do nothing. All right. Message, create task. These are functions to execute if there is an actual input that was made. Clear input. So these functions are yet to be defined. So we're going to define them real quick. So I want to first define this template right here, which is this here. So whatever is going to be returned from here is going to be added to the new element we've created. So let's just go in and create that function template. We're going to define template. The template is going to take in two parameters, the title and date. Right. So this is going to return a template string. So template strings, it's for strings. It's going to create a new string and put this in. This is what I want. This is the HTML I want inside this task, this new task that will be created. So I don't just want to, create another new task. I just want to put everything into it once, make it work. So H2. Okay. So H2 is going to have a class of title. Just the same thing I did right here before. So title. Let's try to format that, make it look all right. So we're also going to have a P of date. So what I'm trying to say right here is this literal string template literal is going to execute this. So this is actually an expression, a JavaScript expression, calling whatever you pass into title, calling it here. So assuming you pass in a title of do laundry, it's going to create this, it's going to send this into this new element we are creating, and it's going to define whatever we give the title as into this h2 HTML element. So this will be the title and this will be the date. And we have another div, for our delete our delete icon, and let's say delete pointer. Remember it also has an ID, so we're going to give it an ID of delete icon so that we can be able to call it from our JavaScript. And we're going to have the icon itself. My VS Code is doing pretty well today. Very well. So this is the class FA trash icon. Icon. All right. So we've defined this. So let me just go straight into the next function. So handle delete. So this next function is the ability for you to delete a task. So remember, we didn't implement updating a task. We just want to implement deleting a task. When you click on the delete, let me just show you in here. Once we delete on this icon, this entire task needs to be deleted. So I want to implement that right here. Okay. So first delete button. I'm going to explain why we are finding this element here rather than at the top. The reason why, let me just explain it right now. The reason why we are defining this here is because this is going to be created by manipulation. So JavaScript is executed from top to bottom. So if you define this document dot get element by ID, which is going to be delete icon. Now, delete icon is here already in your HTML code. It was hard coded. But what if you delete this guy and you now create a new one? So so the reason why this is defined here is because JavaScript is executed from top to bottom, and this function can only execute when this has been created, when this template has been created. So you cannot delete a task if there is no task, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. You cannot delete a task that doesn't exist. So every task will have a delete button. So going on, we have a task and that query selector, and we have task. Sorry for the background noise. Sorry. So sorry. Delete button.
Yeah, I'm fine too. It's 9:30.
All right. I'm rounding up right now. Events, listener. Okay. So we have a function that we just remove. Oh yeah, I think that is Elizabeth. Elizabeth is in Nigeria. So it's really late here. So that's remove. So what I'm trying to say is just remove the node, remove the index.html, and yeah, let me just go over it quickly. Const asks container and query selector all. So I want to select every task within the container. So if tasks. So let me just quickly type all of this. So I will explain after. So if this is MSG document, so let's quickly type this, create element. Okay, let's add. So it's just going to be going on and on. So MSG, that's inner text. Yeah, so no tasks available. So I'm just going to explain all of this. Just quickly plug this in. And I also want to define, I think I want to define the last function. So this is the last function. Play a message. MSG container connector and MSG. That's true. Right. Let me go over it real quick, really quick. So handle delete. This is going to so once you click on the delete button, which is the icon, the delete button icon, we are actually going to delete the node. So this removes node and it's going to send a message. So this send message is you are going to create you're going to call this function. So this function is going to just look at the list of tasks, and if there are no tasks, it just tell you that there are no tasks available. So it will create this function is going to create um, a new HTML element, and it's going to add this style to it, and it's going to append it to the DOM. So let's run this and see. So we have this guy. Okay, we can delete. We're having errors, I think. Let's see if we can add a new do dishes. So oh, so okay, just last things right here. We need to actually define our form that add event listener. Yeah, submit and handle form. Handle form. So this will start to handle if our form handle delete. I also need to put in handle delete. Handle delete. It's double form. Yeah. So handle delete. Okay. So as we can see, let me refresh the page. I delete this. The entire node is going to leave, and I create a new form. Do dishes, and also this time. So I create this. Oh, a button isn't working. Save button. So we need to be able to create all of this and start creating. But this is working. Have this working. Do dishes. Let me say that. Okay, we just go to the console to see. Okay, there's an error in the clear message in 98. So this is how I used to debug in 98. MSG remove tax container. Sorry, that was a dot. So that was a mistake. Hopefully it works. That was pretty rushing. Okay, now it works. So by default, we have this guy, this new task. You could delete the task and you could create a new task. You know, today's date, you want this, you could save, you could close, you could create another task, do laundry. So basically, this is all about the project. You could save it, do laundry. My do laundry isn't saving. Remove. Uh-oh. It only creates. Okay, I think because of time, we're going to just because I can delete right now and there are no tasks available. I think I might have made a mistake somewhere because of time, date, um, home, work. This is creating, I could say okay, on the third, I want to do all of that. So this is creating, right? So I must have made some mistake somewhere to add more and more, um, to add more and more tasks. So here's where we're at. So again, this is the code on GitHub. You could just go through it and get the CSS, most importantly, if you are trying to code along. And also this project will just show you about DOM manipulations and some HTML. So thank you all for being here this long. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I don't know. I start smiling really hard. Okay. So thank you, everyone. I really, really appreciate everyone being here. Okay. So this is it. Thanks, guys. I mean, this is my first time presenting. I was pretty nervous, but I started becoming, quite confidential as I saw Elizabeth. So thank you, everyone. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for doing this, man.
Any questions,
Thank
Elizabeth?
you.
I don't know. Or anyone?
Not
Yeah.
tonight because I'm pretty exhausted. But I really enjoyed every bit of what you did. Like you put me through the process, just like Adam usually do. Adam, I have a clone of you now.
No. Thank you. Thank you. And the main, let me just stop sharing, stop presenting so I can see. Okay. So Adam, do you have any questions for me?
When do you think you're going to be ready to talk about Node?
Well, in a few weeks' time.
All right.
Yeah, in a few weeks'
Okay.
time.
All right. So
Yeah.
I'll check back in with you in a few weeks. Okay.
Okay.
I'm just going to stop recording now.
Oh, okay.